Hi students, now we are going to examine the width of the attached gingiva. First of all, we should know the microscopic features of the gingiva in order to demarcate how much of attached gingiva that is present in the patient. Now for this, so basically let's start with the microscopic features of the gingiva. I hope you all very well know that this is the gingival margin. This is the papilla, the papillary area, the triangular area in between the teeth, and this is the attached gingiva. Normally, the marginal gingiva and the attached gingiva is demarcated by a free gingival groove. But most of the patients, this free gingival groove is very difficult to be appreciated well. Now, after the attached gingiva comes the alveolar mucosa. This alveolar mucosa is highly vascular. This is very elastic and highly mobile as well. The zone or the boundary between the alveolar mucosa and the attached gingiva is what we want to appreciate using the tension test now. So this boundary is called as the mucogingival junction. Now, in order to verify how much of attached gingiva is present, we need to find where is the mucogingival junction. Now, what is attached gingiva? Attached gingiva is from the mucogingival junction to the base of the sulcus or the pocket depth. So, if at all you are measuring the entire keratinized gingiva, it is from the marginal gingiva, crest of the marginal gingiva, until the mucogingival junction. Now, if you want to measure this, so this is the marginal gingiva and this is the mucogingival junction. So it stands roughly around 5 mm. Okay. So from this 5 mm, if you actually want to calculate the width of attached gingiva, you have to subtract the sulcus depth. Now how much is the sulcus depth in this case? It looks around 1 mm. So there is around 4 mm of the width of attached gingiva. This is one aspect of measuring the width of attached gingiva clinically in a patient. How to assess whether the width of attached gingiva is adequate or not? For this, we need to use something called tension test. In this tension test, it is very simple. You just have to use the patient lower lip and move it outward and forward like this and keep on pulling the lip outward and forward direction. By doing that, you will be able to demarcate the mucogingival junction very well. As you see this movement, you please observe if there is any movement noticed on the gingival margin or on the papilla. If at all, while you are moving the lip, if there is a movement, while you are moving the lip in this fashion, outward and forward, if you observe any movement of the papilla or the marginal gingiva, then that means the attached gingiva is inadequate. Let us see. Now observe whatever I am showing. Do you really observe any movement of the papilla or the marginal gingiva? No, not really, right? Because there is sufficient or adequate amount of attached gingiva, this attached gingiva resists highly the movement of this attached gingiva is very tenacious, adhered to the periosteum, and therefore the movement can be resisted. Therefore, the movement is not transferred to the marginal gingiva or the papilla. In any other cases, if you see there is inadequate attached gingiva, then the movement, whenever you do this tension test, you can observe there is movement of the papilla and the marginal gingiva. So as you move the lip, then the sulcus can be opened up, and this can also lead to pocket formation, gingival recession, and many other gingival inflammatory signs. So this is very, very important to assess the amount of attached gingiva in a patient.
To assess the width of attached gingiva, the another technique that can be used is roll technique. For roll technique, you take basically a periodontal probe and you put the probe like this in a flat direction on the alveolar mucosa. Once you put the probe in the alveolar mucosa, you roll the lip like this. If at all the probe comes and lands up in the marginal gingiva, that means the amount of attached gingiva is inadequate. If there is no amount of width of attached gingiva is inadequate, then once the alveolar mucosa is rolled, then the probe can be tilted until the marginal gingiva or the papillary area. But in this case, if you see, there is enough amount of gingiva, attached gingiva adequacy is present. So even when the gingiva, when the lip is being rolled, the probe is not being pushed because it will stop. The attached gingiva will act as a barrier and it will stop movement of the probe beyond this point. Okay, so this is actually how you assess the roll technique.